Hence, Sufism is a spiritual path based on the principles expressed in the Holy Quran and embodied in the character of the Prophet. Peace be upon him. Sufism is a practice and way of life in which a deeper identity is discovered and lived. This deeper identity or essential self is beyond the superficial personality and is in harmony with the source of life. The essential self has abilities of awareness, actions, creativity, and love that are far beyond those of the superficial personality. Eventually, it is understood that these abilities belong to a greater being that we each individualize and embody in our own unique way while never being separate from it. Islam originally meant submission, the harmonization of the individual self with the divine. Sufism is an intentional, intensified expression of that universal state of submission, which could be called Islam. More than a doctrine or a belief system, Sufism is an experimental approach to the divine. It is a tradition of enlightenment that carries the essential truth forward through time. Tradition, however, must be convinced in a vital and dynamic sense. Its expression must not remain limited to the religious and cultural forms of the past. The truth of Islam requires reformulation and fresh expression in every age. This tradition is and will remain a critique of worldliness, of everything that causes us to be forgetful of the divine reality. It will never compromise with a stubbornly materialistic society. It is and must be way out of the labyrinth of a bankrupt materialistic culture. Most important, however, it is an invitation to meaningfulness and well-being. Islam as we know it today developed within an historical and cultural matrix. The Islamic revelation presented itself as the latest expression of the essential message brought to humanity by the prophets of all ages. The Quran recognizes the validity of countless prophets or messengers who have come to awaken us from our selfish egoism and remind us of our spiritual nature. It confirms the validity of past revelations while asserting that the original message was often distorted over the course of time. Islam's claim to universality is founded on the broad recognition that there is only one God, the God of all people and all true religions. Islam understands itself to be the wisdom realized by the great prophets, explicitly including Jesus, Moses, David, Solomon, and Abraham among others, and implicitly including other unnamed enlightened beings of every culture. Over 14 centuries, the broad Islamic tradition has contributed a body of spiritual and literature second to none on earth. The guiding principles of the Quran and the heroic virtue of Muhammad and his companions provided an impetus that allowed a spirituality of love and consciousness to flourish. Those who follow the path today are the inheritors of an immense treasure of wisdom and literature. Beginning from its roots at the time of Muhammad, Sufism has organically grown like a tree with many branches. These branches generally do not see one another as rivals. In the world today, diverse groups exist under the name of Sufism. There are those who accept Islam in both form and essence, while there are others who are Muslim in essence but not in strictly orthodox form. If Islam recognizes one central truth, it is the unity of being, that we are not separate from the divine. This is a truth that our age is an excellent position to appreciate emotionally because of the shrinking of our world too. communications and transportation, and intellectually because of developments in the sciences. We are one. One people, one ecology, one universe, one being. If there is a single truth worthy of the name, it is that we are all integral to the truth, not separate. The realization of this truth has its effects on our sense of who we are, on our relationships to others and to all aspects of life. The essence of Islam is about realizing the current of love that runs throughout our life, the unity behind form. If Sufism has a central message, it is the development of remembrance and love of God. Only presence can awaken us from our enchantment to the world and our own psychological processes. And only cosmic love can comprehend the divine. Love is the highest activation of intelligence, for without it nothing great would be accomplished, whether spiritually, artistically, socially, or scientifically. Islam, the state of submission, is the attribute of those who love. Lovers are people who are purified by love, free of themselves and their own qualities, and fully attentive to the beloved. This is to say that Sufis are not held in bondage by any quality of their own, because they see everything they are and have as belonging to the source. An early Sufi, Shebli, said, "The Sufi sees nothing except God in the two words." This book is about one essential aspect of the spiritual life, presence, and how this presence can develop into remembrance, and how through remembrance our essential human qualities can be activated. Abu Muhammad Mutaish says, "The Sufi is he whose thought keeps pace with his foot." That is, he is entirely present. His soul is where his body is, and his body where his soul is, and his soul where his foot is, and his foot where his soul is. This is the sign of presence without absence. Others say, on the contrary, he is absent from himself but present with God. It is not so. He is present with himself and present with God. We live in a culture that has been described as materialistic, alienating, bureaucratically, individualistic, narcissistic, and yet ridden with anxiety, shame, and guilt. From the Sufi point of view, humanity today is suffering under the greatest tyranny, the tyranny of the ego. We worship innumerable false idols, but all of them are forms of the ego. There are many ways for the human ego to observe even the perceived spiritual values. The true Sufi is the one who makes no personal claims to virtue or truth, but who lives a life of presence and selfless love. More important than what we believe is how we live. If certain beliefs lead to exclusiveness, self-righteousness, and fantasism, it is the vanity of the believer that is the problem. If the remedy increases the sickness, an even more basic remedy is called for. The idea of presence with love may be the most basic remedy for the prevailing materialism, selfishness, and unconsciousness of our age. In our obsession with our false selves, in turning our backs on God, we have also lost our essential self, our own divine spark. In forgetting God, we have forgotten ourselves. Remembering God is the beginning of remembering ourselves. Yunus Emre, the first and greatest Turkish Sufi poet, says, "Let us master this science and read this book of love. God instructs, love is his school. We have all been failures in love. This is our conscious starting point. Only a saint is an expert and complete lover, because only a saint has been freed by God of what stands in the way of love. We can practice meditation and seek spiritual knowledge for years and still overlook the central importance of love. One of the subtlest forms of egoism is when we engage ourselves in a practice to be more spiritual than ours. When we turn spirituality into an arena for our ambition. But love eventually forgives even that. I do not really know if this modern world is further from the truth than many civilizations that have preceded it. Yet so much of what occupies our attention is a fiction, and through these fictions we live a life of division, of separation, of selfishness, of loneliness. Behind our sadness and anxiety is a simple lack of love, which translates into a lack of meaning and purpose. Unless we look with the eyes of love, we cannot see things as they are. We have searched for love in all the wrong places, in building ourselves up, in making ourselves more special, more perfect, more powerful. Love substitutes are driving the world. We strive after anything but love, because love is so close, we overlook it. One of the most painful experiences for any person is recognizing that most human beings take themselves as the exclusive goal and center of their thoughts, feelings, and actions. It can be utterly terrifying for a sensitive soul to live in a world where everyone is so busy achieving their own goals and interests that real human needs are pushed aside or trampled in the process. For most people, even love is primarily a form of desire, preference, or obsession. Love, in other words, has been confused with self-gratification, and for most people, spirituality is reduced to a way of feeling good about themselves. The diseases of self, once at least partially mitigated by the vaccinations of faith, are becoming more rampant. This self-centered way of living and being is exactly the same that all authentic traditions of spirituality would save us from. Even the notion of spiritual health as a self-giving and an awareness of a super personal center beyond one's ego is becoming suspect. It doesn't matter what we have accomplished, what recognition we have received, what we own. There is nothing as sweet as loving, not necessarily being loved, but just loving. The more we love, the more people, the more manifestations of life we love, the richer we are. Nothing is more beautiful or more sacred than the impulse of love we feel for a friend, a child, a parent, a partner. Nothing would be sweeter than to be able to love anywhere and always. Rumi has said, "Whatever I have said about love, when love comes, I am ashamed to speak." At the same time, if love is the essential power within and behind this universe and our inner life, no subject has greater precedence. Thanks for watching.